Ooh, exciting. Hello, world. Oh, Pedro, I see
Oh,
people in the chat saying you have no sound.
okay. I believe that I fixed that now, hopefully. So, okay, I believe now it's and I hope that is sound now. Uh, but anyways, let me still going on there. And I am a mobile developer and this MVP, Microsoft MVP as well. So we have been doing these kind of preview presentations of Visual Studio 2026, and I have this idea to bring Jared and show us a hand on this new Visual Studio, all the new things, all the shiny new things, and yeah. So Jared, please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. I still see in the chat that people are saying that your audio is still a bit low, so maybe you want to fix that while I talk. Um, and let us know in the chat if you can hear me, if it's just Pedro or just me. Um, my name is Gerald. I work at Microsoft on the .NET MAUI team, and I've been using to. I still see very very low, Pedro. So I don't know if you can turn up the volume more, all the way. And I've been working with Visual Studio 2026 for um, a long time already before it was out, because that's what we do. We have internal versions first. But here we are. We're going to talk about all the new and good stuff. But that is what we're going to talk about, and whatever you have in the chat, of course. So, whatever you want to know, my sound is good. Okay, perfect. I think there's a little bit of a delay here between the chat and what we were talking about. So, um, cool. Uh, Pedro, have you been using Visual Studio 2026? I guess, right? Like it's been
Yes,
released, I think, on Monday. So
yes,
did you
I
install?
have
I
been
think you
using.
installed it a little bit earlier because you're an MVP, right? So you get access a little bit earlier.
Yeah, that is right. I have been testing that since last month, I believe, something like that. And yeah, it has been a really great. So like a beta or alpha version per se, and was really fast. I really love the new UI stuff. The AI are a little bit better compared to 2022. Like the better integration, the Copilot is capable of doing, helping me a lot of, and even more. And now with those public versions, I can see they improving even took the performance even further, which is really great. And by the way, I'm using my Visual Studio on a virtual machine through Parallels on my Mac, so even with that, it's damn fast.
Cool. People are still saying your audio is very low, so I don't know what you want to do about that. But I can hear you fine
No
on whatever
worries,
backend we're using
just
here.
the
But
volume.
it seems people are having trouble hearing you. Um, so, but I guess maybe just then it will be just me talking mostly. Um, let's just hop over to Visual Studio and let's check out what we can see here, right?
There you go. Now people can see your Visual Studio screen. You're seeing. Let us know if the zoom is
All
okay,
right, cool.
guys, and if we need more zoom there.
Yeah, the Zoom is always an issue, right? And I didn't really set this one up yet for like presentations and stuff. So I'm pointing over here because that's where my Visual Studio is right here. So I'm gonna be looking that way for a little bit, but I'm here. I'm here for you, viewer. I haven't really set this instance up for presentations yet, so it might be a little bit small. I will try to zoom in wherever I kind of like can. But let us know your questions. What do you want? Actually, people in the chat. I'm looking at my chat on my channel. I think this is also broadcasted on Pedro's channel. So hi, people on Pedro's channel. But let us know what your questions are. Did you install Visual Studio 2026 yet? Because now it is available for everyone. You can just, I don't know, there's probably a link that you can go to. Just type in your favorite search engine, which is probably ChatGPT by now, Visual Studio 2026, and you will find a download link, right? So I think we've called it, I don't know all the specifics there, but I think we also changed kind of like how we're going to release. I think we're going to release every month. I think we have been doing that for a little bit, but we're going to be releasing every month. And we also rebranded that kind of like to Visual Studio 2026 Insiders. So that kind of like mimics whatever we have on Visual Studio Code, right? We have Visual Studio Code. Regular, no suffix, and then Visual Studio Code Insiders that just updates a little bit faster, right? So we have that now insiders for Visual Studio 2026. I don't think we did any announcements yet on when we're going to release it as a stable. You can make some guesses maybe on what would be a date that would make sense to you. But yeah, so that's coming. That's how we're going to go forward. There's a whole blog post on how we're doing this as well. Installing as we speak, Patrick. Really, really great. Nice work. So here it is. And the first thing we'll notice, well, not maybe super clear from what we see here, but whenever I start kind of like maybe doing, let's open a project that I to open project solution. And what do we have here? Let's open the Maui Aspire one. There we go. And you can see we have new looks, right? The fluent UI, I think is what we call it. How are we liking it? Because typically, whenever people get like new looks and new UIs, whatever, people will be like, "Oh, this is horrible. I want to go back to the old one." But you'll get used to it pretty quickly. At least for me, it happened pretty quickly, and I like it. I think this team was already also introduced for Visual Studio 2022, but then you had to kind of like opt in. You had to add it yourself for that, or enable it at least. And now it's enabled by default, right? But the other cool thing why I think you will not um, really mind the new look is because Visual Studio 2026 is super fast. I don't know about you, Pedro. Let's check your sound levels. But if it felt fast immediately whenever I installed it, like it was much faster than Visual Studio 2022, right?
Yeah, that is true. And when I did some PRs on the .NET MAUI, so it loads the .NET MAUI project really, really fast. And this is kind of amazing because it's a huge, huge project, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I've been noticing as well. Let us know how Pedro's audio level is better. So with bigger projects, of course, that's where the most gain is to be found. But yeah, even just loading Visual Studio itself, doing things, building, it works much faster as I installed it and started working with it. Juan installed it a few minutes after the announcement. Very good. I see, Pedro, your audio is still low, according to Patrick. Okay, people in the chat, what do you want to see? What do you want to talk about? Right now, I loaded up a project that has to do with Aspire and .NET MAUI. And the really cool thing is that we have some new stuff for Maui in there as well. Because I've been working on the Aspire integration for that at Maui. So whenever you do now kind of like file new project, you'll get the new project dialog. And you can see this nice fancy button right here, right? It's nice and purple. This is like our biggest feature here in Visual Studio 2026. No, I just the little visual things helps. It helps. It helps have you have a better experience. So we have that, and you can see like, hey, we have all the project templates, of course, that you're used to, right? Like we have console app, Blazor web app, etc., etc. And then of course we have like the Maui ones, right? So you can do Maui, new Maui app, Blazor one, updated for .NET 10, so it doesn't have the little race car anymore. Or did we have what did we have now? The race car was .NET 8, right here. You cannot see it. The race car. Boop, boop. Boom. What did we have now? I don't know, but for .NET 10 we have the submarine, so that's good too. So if you do like a .NET MAUI app right now, and I don't know, people in the chat let us know if you've worked with Aspire already. But now you can do, hey, new MAUI app. This is like your default options. But if you go further, and whenever you select .NET 10, because we really are working on making this work for .NET 10, so .NET 9. No, right? We only have the sample content .NET 10. We also have the option to a list in .NET Aspire orchestration. So it will automatically include a .NET Aspire orchestration with some bits for you already set up, and you can start listing this in your Aspire orchestration as well. So that is super, super cool. While we're here, while we're on the framework, always good to explain about .NET MAUI. .NET MAUI does not really participate in the LTS, SDS cycle of .NET, right? .NET MAUI, you always want to be on the latest stuff. Right now, that's .NET 9, but whenever .NET 10 is going to come out in November, then .NET 9 will go out of support 6 months after that. So that's like in May 2026, right? Look up the support policy for all the details. It's true. I'm not lying to you. I have a video right here on my channel if you're watching on my channel. But go check it out. You always want to be on the latest stuff for .NET MAUI. So definitely go check it out. If you do that, oops, let me zoom out a little bit. You'll get something that looks like this. I've prepared this a little bit. I've been using this to test out things, so it might look a little bit different from when you're actually going to add this. But then you get like, hey, this is your Maui app, right? So you got it right here. If you have this in an existing project, chances are that you have. We also enabled now the context menu for it. So if you do right click on your Maui application, you can now say add .NET Aspire orchestration support, and it will add it to the .NET Aspire orchestration that's already there, right? So it will set that up for you as well. All the integration is there now for your Maui app. First class citizen, we're doing it, people. So we have that Maui app, and whenever you do get that, you have the service defaults that's also added, right? So the service defaults is kind of like adds the default configuration for the services that you're now going to use with your .NET MAUI app, and then using that with Aspire, right? So again, there's a bunch of debug code in here, so don't look too closely at that. But it kind of like starts after that. So add service defaults, and it's just that, right? It's the defaults. It is the code that is added into your project. So if you want to change things here, absolutely do. If you don't want to use OpenTelemetry, just comment it out. Don't use it, which would be a shame because that's big part of the value that we're adding here. But if you don't want to see it, then absolutely don't, right? You can just comment it out. And there's a bunch of other stuff that you can include here or just leave it out if that's not important to you. One other cool thing is if you've been working on apps, and probably you did, because else you wouldn't be watching me and Pedro talking about Maui and Visual Studio 2026, then you know that if you're going to deploy your app to like the Android emulator or your Android device, talking to localhost is not going to work, right? So because localhost, you have your server running there, maybe your backend server that you want to talk to, and now localhost is suddenly your device that you're talking to, and your backend is not running on that, right? So we want to fix that. One of the things that you have to do there, according to our documentation, is disable the development certificate, or the checks at least. We've making that easy for you by adding a helper for that. So you can do this. Don't forget to disable it on debug. I don't have it on here, but whenever you use the production code for it, it will give you a little warning whenever you try to do this on debug. So then, it won't compile there. It won't end up there because this is not something that you want to do in a production app. And then some other stuff that you don't really need to worry about if you just want to get started with this, right? One of the other cool things to not talk to localhost is the service discovery. So what you would then do in your app host, that's kind of like your code representation of your whole application landscape with .NET Aspire. And you go into the program CS, and here you can start describing your project, right? So I have a web API also here in this project, and I reference that add project with web API, magic string right here. We're going to use that later. And then I'm going to add my Maui app. Don't look at the commented code right now. I'll get to that in a second. Maui app, add project, Maui app, and which I refer to as Maui app, but I also add the reference to the web API to my Maui app project. And now it knows how to find each other, not just here in code, but also with the addresses. It will automatically figure out where the address is for our backend and pass that into our Maui app. So if I go to my Maui app, I can see in the Maui program, like, hey, we have this builder.services.at/HTTP client for my weather API client. And I refer to client.base address with HTTP or HTTPS. You can do both web API, and that's the same fire, excuse me, that we've seen in that app host, right? And it will now automatically replace this value with whatever the endpoint is going to be. I don't know. Whenever we start running, if it's in production, if it's in like my local environment, it will replace that address and it will be able to find it. So that's super, super cool. Then if we look at like the weather API client, we don't need to do anything. We need to kind of like, get that HTTP client injected here. We want to use that, and then it will pick that up automatically. So that's super cool. Now, the other thing is, again, localhost, you cannot really connect to that. So the other thing is that we will do, and we're going to make this easier, is what you see here. The Aspire team is currently working on DevTunnels support. If you don't know what DevTunnels is a service that has been around for a longer time to allow to have a remote address that will connect to a local machine, right? So whenever you do that, right now you have to set it up manually. So I already set it up here. Actually, this is from earlier, so I hope this is still working. And you need this little identifier thing right here, and put that in your Aspire launch host settings so that there will be a environment variable that has this value. And then whenever you have that, you can just here in your Visual Studio Run menu, which also has a nice new look, nice rounded corners, you can say, hey, I want to run my Maui app on my Pixel 5 right here. And then you can just start running that. And it will come up with the Aspire dashboard. It will come up with the Android emulator. And it will automatically be able to come up with the web API that it's also starting, and everything comes together, and you can inspect the metrics of your .NET MAUI app, the requests going back and forth to your .NET MAUI app and the web API, and all this kind of logging and metrics that is there. And in .NET MAUI for .NET 10, we already started to implement more and more metrics coming from the .NET MAUI SDK as well. So whenever you do things like, I don't know, things that are not great for performance, we are going to try and detect that and then emit some logging to the Aspire app or some other syncs, as they call it, want to send that. And it will pick it up and say, like, hey, you have like redraws here, or there's a lot of time going in the layout calculation, et cetera, et cetera. So you might want to look into your application right there and see what might be going on. Cool. So while that's running, we're still saying the sound is a little bit horrible. So I don't know how the video quality is low, sound is horrible. So I think the connection is a little bit struggling, Pedro. Still, it's somewhat followable, people. I'm sorry, Pedro's working on it while I try to talk through it here. I see some people chat with great things. Where's the love for Mac? I know I'm still sad about Visual Studio for Mac, but yeah, that's gone. That's not discontinued. So this version, unfortunately, does not bring that back. I don't think we have any plans on the roadmap to actually do that. I would really hope so because I love the product, but nothing right now. So if you want to be on a Mac, then Visual Studio Code with the VS Dev Kit, sorry, the C# Dev Kit and the .NET MAUI extension on VS Code. Hopefully should do the trick for you as well. I've been using that, and that's been going pretty well. Something's going wrong here with our little app. I think it's because my dev tunnel is not working anymore. So let me see if I can quickly restart that. And the other thing is, like, I love Writer better. Well, hopefully this new version, try it out. There's a free version. Check it out. Maybe we can convince you to come back. And if not, like, Writer is a good option. I hear that from a lot of people. So if you're happy there, then stay there, right? We're all friends. So let me see. Oh yeah, this is a big exception here. So let me see if I can restart this with a new identifier, and then go there. Pedro, talk. Maybe it sounds better now for me. Okay, how is it with Pedro? Okay. Oh no. I think the dev tunnels are now angry with me, so that kind of sucks because I have this. I have done a remote desktop session in here, and then I cannot log in. It will not accept my whatever it's called, my two-factor authentication thing. it doesn't work for some reason. So check out the .NET MAUI community stand up from yesterday. There, the demo was working. If you want to actually see this in action, or catch me somewhere else, because I'll be showing this all over the place. It will probably be part of .NET Conf as well. So make sure to catch that. So that's in a nutshell something new that's coming for .NET MAUI. Still no sound for Pedro. So I wish it's not that I do not want to, not talk to Pedro, but if you can't hear him, that's kind of like sad. But I can hear him, so maybe we can translate a little bit. Pedro, what's something that you're looking forward in .NET MAUI? But you said that you contributed to .NET MAUI for .NET 10, right? So what did you work on for that? Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to put something in the chat, and now that's saying an error too. So this is all going great. So what Pedro was saying, if you can't hear it, I was asking the chat if you can hear Pedro, yes or no. He was saying like, hey, what he did for a bunch of stuff is make more types public. So that's interesting, right? If you're kind of like more interested in the technical side of the .NET MAUI SDK, we do a major release together with the .NET SDK, like the major .NET SDK, every year, every November. So .NET 10 is this year, .NET 11 is the next year, and that's kind of like our only chance to make changes to the public APIs, either to deprecate it or remove it. Like if we've what we try to do is like deprecate it or obsolete it. I think there's technically a difference in those terms, but you know what I mean. We mark it as like obsolete, and you will get the warnings in your code with like, hey, don't use this anymore. And then like the next year, although it usually takes longer, the next year we might actually remove it, right? So you get a warning first, change your code. If you ignore that, then after a year, the API is just gone, and then you have to change it, right? But usually we give you a little bit of more heads up, and we leave it in there longer. But then it will take another year, right? And that's the same thing for making APIs public as well. We have a bunch of stuff that makes it easier to kind of like make extensions to .NET MAUI. But then they need to be public, right? So we've had that for a couple of times. One example that comes to mind is I've been talking to people um, um, where they wanted to customize the tab bar, either for shell or the regular tab bar, and that was like super closed down, private, internal, whatever. So you couldn't do all these customizations there. So we've opened that up, and a bunch of other stuff that you can now kind of like override, inherit, etc., to make your .NET MAUI app even better. Um, yeah, I see some people asking about the XAML source generation too, which is super cool. Any questions about Visual Studio 2026? That should be our main topic. But if you want to talk all about Maui, that's fine for me as well. That's what I love talking about. Um, so cool. We got all of this. So yeah, XAML source generation is super cool too. Pedro, just interrupt me at any time if you want me to show anything or talk about something else. Um, Example source generation is super cool too. Let me actually create a new project for that and see if I can just get it up and running here from the top of my head. .NET MAUI app, so file new, .NET MAUI app new. Like I said, we have the new template, so just do that. Let me not do it with the sample content. So if you've ever clicked the sample content, then you basically get like a full application that you can use, right? It's kind of like a very extensive to-do app. It's super cool. Definitely go check it out. Just check it once and see what that does for you. If you don't do that, you'll just get the super simple .NET bot. And like I said, in a submarine. So let's just do that. And I'll just run it on Windows, which is going to be fine. Doesn't really matter for the XAML source gen. Now we can hear Gerald twice. Well, that's better than once, right? So who doesn't like stereo Gerald? Um, so while this is running, while this is building, doing the Windows things, let me answer some questions here. So I'm talking about XAML source gen. Any plans for Material 3 in Maui? I think we have been talking about it internally, but definitely find if there's an issue on the repository and like plus one that. That's kind of like how we also know that people are interested in some things, right? So find an issue. If you can find it, open it, and then, let people comment on that. Like, hey, I want to see this too. I think there's an issue for it. And if that's something people want, then we should be looking into it. There it is, the .NET 10 submarine. Hello world, welcome to. This is what you're used to, right? So click me. This all works. Now, what we're adding as a opt-in feature, and we're adding a lot of improvements for this in .NET 10 RC2. So .NET 10 RC1 has just been released. RC2 is coming, and we've been implementing a lot of fixes for the XAML source gen. So it's going to be an opt-in feature, kind of preview, but not entirely. So it's still work in progress. If you seriously, we really want your feedback, right? Because we want XAML source gen to be the default by .NET 11. So start using this on your actual production applications. You can just, take a branch in Git, enable this, see if it works for you, and then please let us know the feedback. You can find my email address on my GitHub profile. You know where to find me. You're on my YouTube channel, hopefully. You know how to find me, where to find me. Send it to me. I'll send it to the right person, which is partially also me. So we are very interested in your feedback here. Open an issue if that's what you need to do. That's fine. But what we can do now, and I actually need to check the notes on this because we changed this recently. So let me do this Maui release notes. There we go. What's new for .NET Maui and .NET 10? Right, so we have that for every preview. You can see what's going on. And then we have release candidate 1. And I think what we added here, did we not add that here? I think we actually might still need to add that here. That sucks. Oh, we changed how to do this. That sucks. How am I going to find this quickly? I know where to find it quickly, but I'm not going to open my Teams while I'm live on stream. Let me see. GitHub.com/.net/Maui. So this is where Maui lives, right? Let me go into the releases here real quick. I think it was something like you need to go into your CS proj, and we made it a property now. Something like XAML. Maybe it will just help me. XAML inflator, and then source gen. Is that what it is? Is it that simple? Rebuild. See what this does. If it does anything. Let me scroll down here, see if I can see it. So this is like our releases page. So here we have all kinds of release notes as well, instructions how to install it. Date picker, we did some work on that too. Gestures, infrastructure, source, no, generator. Yeah, okay. This is already older, I think. Yeah, that's already older. Okay. Inflator. So you can follow the work as we go. You can just do that right here. 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Gosh, where is this? Does this actually work? Hello, Alexandre. Show. How does show preview work in Visual Studio 2026? Daniel Baraka. What do you mean with that? Show preview? What is it? Yeah, is that the live preview? Is that what you're talking about? So if you have Ask Copilot. Good thinking, Niels. But I think this is so new that the models don't know about it yet. But this is a great bridge to our Copilot integrations, of course. So I think that's something that has been, of course, improved as well, because we have all the Copilot things. So we have a little Copilot button here. Copilot is active, and you can bring that up. And we have like all the integration AI stuff, right? So Copilot Chat, it was already built in for 2022 a little bit, but now in 2026, like of course everything is AI now, so we've made this even better. RPS, you need to be a better way to screen share. I know this is it. This is it for today. We're sorry. For next time, the setup will be better, but for now, we're gonna have to roll with this. So yeah, let's just actually see. So if you're not too familiar with all of this, you kind of like have an ask and an agent mode, right, in AI. So let's just switch it to ask. And then depending on the mode, we'll have a bunch of models, and that can also be dependent on your subscription, your what your company allows you to use, yes or no, because each of these have like a different cost, right? So if your company says like, that's nice, I like you one time, but not 10 times, because this means like if a request costs one cent, 1 euro cent, then this means the modifier here means like, okay, this costs one request costs 1 euro cent, but this 10 times will cost like 10 cents, right? So that's going fast suddenly. So, your administrator can disable and enable that. Or if you just use your personal subscription and you have your credit card hooked up, just, roll with it, do it. So we can do Claude Sonnet. I have been using Claude Sonnet for a lot of stuff for code-wise. GPT-5 works pretty well as well, in my opinion, but feel free to kind of like see what works for you. Can you tell me a little bit, well, not a little bit, can you tell me how to enable XAML source generation on a .NET MAUI project? But the chances are is that this will tell me there is no XAML source generation for .NET MAUI, just simply because it doesn't know it yet. There's one trick that we might try to apply for that is, I can see is already enabled. Oh, there we go. Options, XAML failure, reflection. Good, 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 cool. Verification. So how can I enable emitting the source generated files? That will really give me for sure the confirmation to that I need to kind of like see how it actually works. And this is something that is not specific to XAML source generation. You can do that for any source generator project. And you can see it should be here, emit compiler generated files. I just keep forgetting the name. So now I used ask mode and it'll just tell me, right? And it will also generate kind of like a div, a code block for me. And I can say, hey, apply, and it will apply it for me. If I had switched to agent mode right here, it will tell me like, oh, I will do this for you. And it will just change the code for me, right? And it can run commands and it can inspect the output of that commands. And it can just work kind of like autonomously, which is super cool as well. So let's just apply this and we can see the diff right here. It just goes over my file and it will add the little line right here. You can see it in green, emit compiler generated files, tap to accept. Sounds good. And let's build again. And what we then should see, oops, here it is, Solution Explorer. So let's rebuild this. And then what we should see, I'm keeping my eye on the chat here. Yes, live preview. It's renamed to show preview in VS Code. Okay. Didn't get how XAML inflator works. Can you explain it again? You have to pay attention, Jose. I'm answering your question here. Pay attention, okay? Um, Actually, the build fails right now, which is interesting. Oh, I think. Okay, it's just partially. It goes on to the next one. So I think if you then go here into dependencies, and right now it's doing Android. So let's look at Android, and we have analyzers right here. We should see one that is called um, Microsoft Maui controls source gen, right? That's the one that you're looking for. So you can see we have a bunch of source generators already, and that's from all kinds of different things. But this is the one that you're looking for, Microsoft Maui controls source gen. And you can go in there and you can see, hey, we have this code behind generator, and then we see all the files that we are now generating this code for, right? So we can see the main page right here, and you can see, actually, I still don't think this is the complete one, but you can kind of like see what we are compiling here, right? So this is not all the code yet. I'm actually looking for some other files, but maybe I still haven't really done that correctly yet. Oh, and now everything is crashing. This is amazing. Um, this is going really, really well. So let me see, maybe for another platform, is this here? Analyzers. But what you also, because what we have here now is the sg.cs files. But we also have like, or is this the correct one? Wait, here. I think you also have like XSG files or something, and that has a lot of code, which is the representation of the XML, the XAML that you have inside of your thing right here. Because what will happen with XAML source generation is kind of like the problem that is with XAML is during runtime that will all be inflated. That's kind of like how traditionally it happens. Then at some point we did compile it to intermediate language. So then we had a little bit advantage there, and we could tell you a little bit like we'd had it compiled XAML, and we could tell you a little bit like, hey, this is not great, this is not going to work at runtime. But now we're just really taking this XAML, parsing it, and generating actual C# source for it, which will help also with having the exact same version between debug and release, because that's one of the things that uh, we always kind of like hear problems, because whenever you do something in XAML only, make a reference, which is something that you can perfectly do. If you just have the control, you just add that XML namespace in here, you just have the one control here in XAML, but there's no reference in code, then the C# optimizer, compiler optimizer will say, hey, I don't see any reference to this, so I will strip this out, which is a good thing because your app size will go down. It will perform better, all those things, right? But sometimes it will incorrectly pick up things and strip it out, and that then suddenly your app is not working in release while it was working in debug. So that kind of sucks. That's fixed by this, right? Because everything in XAML will now have a counterpart in um, C# code as well. So that should not happen anymore. And the other cool thing is that we can start writing analyzers. So source generation is one thing, but then we have Roslyn analyzers with which you can analyze your code, and we can see like, hey, you're putting your collection view inside of a stack layout, and that's not something that you want to do because then it will infinitely take up space, and that's not good for performance, right? So we can write a Roslyn analyzer to see that kind of like design time, and tell you like, hey, this is not something that you should do, because analyzers on XAML, not great, doesn't just really work very well. So now we have this in C# code, and we can just tell you this is not something that you should be doing. Okay, Jose, you have some connection issues. I'll forgive you. The way to technically enable this, I'll post a link later under the recording of this video, or again, find me on how to do this exactly. I think the syntax is something like this. You'll have to enable it in your CS proj with XAML inflator, and then do it that way. And then if you really want to inspect the source that is coming from that, you can enable this flag right here, emit compiler generated files, and you can get, it's not super nice to look at, right? Nicely formatted code is only for humans. That's what we like. Computers don't really care. It doesn't really care for performance. So the C# code, because we want to, we have to use kind of like the completely written out namespace stuff for that. Because we don't want namespace collisions and all that kind of stuff. So the code is not super easy to read, but you can read it. It's fine. And what we will also do is whenever something happens there, whenever there's a compile error there, whenever something's wrong in your XAML, we will make the link back to your XAML and tell you like, hey, here in your XAML it's going wrong, and you should be able to just fix that. Ideally, you should never have to look at the C# code that we compile for you, that we generate for you. So there you have that. If I could just run it, does that work? I think the code generation is working, but it's hitting our infamous, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, the infamous long path bug in Visual Studio, which is still there. Um, so that's not great. Okay, Pedro, have you done anything with your audio? Can we hear you yet? Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Oh no, that sucks. Okay. Um, Yeah, actually, I think you're learning me something. So tell me what to do. For the people who do not, a quick question, Jose. Okay, well, you cannot hear Pedro, so I'll just quickly say what he said. There's apparently some issue with his OBS version that he's using to stream with his Mac version. So all kinds of issues. You know how it is. You're a developer, so that sucks. Sorry for that. Then he asked, like, hey, can you show a little bit about the um, profiler that should be with Copilot and for Maui apps as well. So you're going to have to tell me, Pedro, where to click because I don't really know what that's all about. And then I saw a question in Jose: does the XAML inflator work for WPF? No. We're the first. We're implementing it. .NET MAUI. That's where you heard it first. If we can make this work fantastic, then hopefully the WPF team will copy that from us because I know WPF people will love that too. But unfortunately, um, 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 share it's like different code bases, right? So that's another team. And as much as I would like to love to do their work as well, we only have 24 hours in a day, right? So we can't do that. But definitely let us know if that's something that you would like to see. Find the WPF repository and report it to them. Okay, Pedro. Okay, let me see if I can get this back to compiling without the source generation here. That's the first step, I guess. Build, and then, or do you have some page to point me to kind of like this? Because I'm typically not in the profiler stuff. Mhm. Oh, very cool. Wait, is this the stuff that Jonathan Peppers worked on? No, that's something different. Jonathan Peppers on our team is big in the performance stuff. He typically also writes about the performance improvements for .NET MAUI specifically, I think. So definitely wait for that blog post because we've got some improvements in there as well. And then in GitHub Copilot, apparently Pedro is saying, "Hey, let's do a new chat so that we don't have all this context." We could say, "I'll just paste it in here." Whoops. Let me see if I can zoom that a little bit for you. Profile, please run a memory profiler to see if there's any memory leak on my application. And by doing an @ sign, I know in VS Code, it shows that here. Oh, yeah, see, so ask Copilot or use add workspace. So whenever I do add, you can see, hey, I can actually see it here. You can see all the tools that you can work with. And you could probably expand this by installing MCPs and that kind of stuff. So you can work with that. So that was the other thing I was going to do for kind of like the example source generation. You have kind of like your tools thing here, and I have some MCPs installed. And MCP is kind of like an API for language models, right? So you plug that in, you install it, and that will enable the model, the Copilot, to use many, many more tools. So you have one for GitHub, and then it can, inspect your GitHub issues. It can create GitHub issues. It can create PRs. There's so many tools in the GitHub MCP. It's crazy. It will hit limits. You will get like a little warning of like, hey, you're using too many tools. There's a fix for that too. But that many tools are there in just the GitHub MCP. But you also have one for Microsoft Learn, which is really cool because Niels, I think he said like, hey, ask Copilot. And I said, well, the model isn't new enough. It doesn't know about XAML source generation. One way to go around that is add the Microsoft Learn MCP for the Microsoft stuff, and then it can read the documentation. So it will go out to Microsoft Learn, it will get the latest information, and then work with that. So you can kind of like inline, on the fly update the knowledge of that model to work with all the latest stuff. And that way to kind of like say, hey, check Microsoft Learn for sure. Have that in kind of like your Copilot instructions in the repository, then it will always do that. So that it will read and always use the latest stuff that is on Microsoft Learn and that's accurate, right? That should be the stuff that works. So that's really, really cool as well. And now we also have the profiler. So you can just say, hey, add profiler. You can say, hey, you have to use this tool specifically. Let me see if I can get that back here. Add profile, or is it profiler then, Pedro? Please run please run a memory profile and see if there's a memory leak. Let's just see this and see what it does. Um, and then it's going to use one reference, starting profiling agent. See, there we go. Use the profiler agent so it knows exactly what I want to do. And you can, for each of the tools, you can say confirm and deny. You can also auto approve these things, right? So whenever you have a command of like .NET build, you could say like, hey, that should be fine, right? .NET build is typically safe unless you write unsafe code. Um, and then you can say, My goodness, what's going on today? And then you can say like, hey, or specific commands should be denied, right? Whenever you want to delete a folder or format your hard drive, absolutely never do that. So you can kind of like pre-approve those things. But typically, whenever the Copilot is going to send some command or do something, it's going to ask you for permission first. Now, what is going on here? The profiler is crashing for some reason. Invalid. Using a proxy completion. Tool names must be unique. Okay, I have multiple tools installed to do the same thing for some reason, I guess. I don't know how, because I didn't do anything. Let's see if I profiler, maybe see if this works better. Oh, there we go. I'll begin by, well, do you want to run? I think it's even in here, right? So I could confirm, or I can say always allow, or allow for this session, right? So then you can really leave the thing to it and it will run automatically. And here you can see, right? It knows how to start up this profiling session. It will come up with all these cool graphs and start running my application and live objects. And I don't even know, private bytes, whatever is going on here. It starts rolling. It will probably take a snapshot and it will look like, hey, what's going on here? And then come back with the results also in Copilot. And you can start chatting about it like you're talking to a colleague who knows more about profiling, like Pedro out here. And I'm like, Pedro, can you analyze these results for me? But now you can just do that with Copilot. You don't need anyone else because I work from home and I don't have anyone else in my office, right? So I can just do it from right here. Now, this is running for a little bit. Obviously, it's collecting data. Have you been, again, I'll translate whatever Pedro says if you still can hear him. Have you been using this? Is this super useful? Okay. Okay, I need to manually stop it. Okay, right. Okay, right. Okay, well, that's good information, right? And that's probably going to improve. So what Pedro says, if you couldn't hear him, he has been using this, and the collection of the data is pretty good, and it will very well analyze, like, hey, this is where the problem might be, right? So it will tell you all of that. The code fixes for it. Um, are not always super great, which is what happens with Copilot from time to time. Like the one day I will ask it something and it will be like, yeah, here's the solution. I will like, wow, that's really amazing. That's exactly what I want. And the other day, it's like, no, this makes no sense. And that's the same for this, right? But over time, this will get better, especially if you use it. So yes, it might be rubbish today, but if you start using it, and also like here you can see like the little feedback icons, right? Was this helpful? Yes or no? And then when you click that, I think you can add some more information. Definitely do that, right? Because that over time will make your life easier. I know we don't have time to provide all that feedback, right? But definitely do, because then it will get better. And it's not just because I have to say this because I'm at Microsoft and AI is everything we do these days, but I absolutely am convinced that AI makes me more productive. I'm using it every day. There is agents running in the background right now to do work for me. And even just if you want to, for super trivial stuff like writing tests, I've been working on a little side project for myself. Where it's a Maui app, where I have a backend. The database is already designed by me, and I just need the Azure functions to act as the endpoint. And I say, hey, just do this thing, generate all the functions for me that have endpoints, and please add JWT security for it so that not everyone can connect to it. It did that perfectly. Sure, you have to say like, hey, maybe I meant this thing or that thing, but you can just say, hey, Copilot, I want to change this little thing right here, and it will do it, right? And you will just get the benefits because it can type faster than you. It can type things in seconds that it will take you minutes, right? So even if it's not entirely correct and you have to do some things manually, you can do that, or you can chat it to Copilot. But it will type it in seconds. So even from just that, you will be more productive. So here you can see, actually, let me zoomed in. Memory Profiler completed its analysis. In this case, it's not super exciting because I just left the application running for a little bit. But it will still tell you like, hey, system string. Okay, that's probably something that is high up the list, right? type name. No live objects were detected at the end of the profiling. So not super exciting here. But honestly, I learned this. I know a lot about Visual Studio 2026 and Copilot, but I didn't know this yet. So this is super useful. That's great. And it even suggests you a couple of follow-up prompt here as well, right? Like investigate and optimize string allocations because it saw that string allocations is a big part of this. And then you review the usage of reflection as well, right? So it even kind of like gives you suggestions of what to ask next. But again, you can also ask Copilot itself, right? Like, hey, what stands out to you? What should we do here? Do you have any suggestions? So that is really, really cool. Um, all right, awesome. That's pretty nice. Yeah, I also already showed you like the MCP stuff as well, and you can really take that far, right? Like you can really let it run that way, and just you can inspect every step here, and also for it doesn't really show it here, but this is like the performance profiler. If I ask like, hey, can you make this a tabbed page, right? I don't know, something simple. And it switched to agent mode now, probably because of the profiler, right? It needed to do some tools automatically, so it switched to agent mode, and now it can actually do things for me. And then it will go off and do things, right? And with prompts, you really have to be explicit and really tell it what you want. So right now, this is like super broad, right? Make it a tab page, and it will make up some things. It will start hallucinating some things sometimes. So you want to really say like use a tab page, but keep using shell. Don't use any icons. Give it a nice pink gradient. Any information that you can put in there is going to help the Copilot to make it, whatever you want to have in there. Um, so you really want to keep that in mind. And in this case, it doesn't really matter. So I just said like, hey, do the thing, doesn't matter. But you can follow along what it's doing right here. And you can also click, you can see like there's little diffs in here for each step. So it will tell you, just like in Git, like, hey, it removed 0 lines, but it added 35. And then whenever I click on one of those, you can see the div for that step, right? So you can see like, hey, it added all these lines here. And then the next one, okay, it added all the lines here again. I don't know why. And then in XAML, it did this. It removed that and it added that. So you can follow along and see for each step what it did exactly. And I think you could also, at least in Visual Studio Code, maybe that's still coming in Visual Studio, you can kind of like go back in time and say like, oh, what you did in this last step, that's nonsense. I'm going to scroll back up and I want to go back to this place in time where my code, oh, here you can see it actually, checkpoint created, right? You can say restore because all the changes that you added right now, that's rubbish. I don't want to do that. And I'm going to go back in time right here. So, super powerful stuff here. I don't know if this messed it up because it can't find files, read errors. There's still errors indicating to resolve this, I need to recreate. Please do. I don't know why it didn't do that automatically. Sometimes it keeps going until it's actually fixed. Now I have to give it a little nudge of, hey, please actually do that. But it will go out and do it, right? It will start building it. You can see build started. I didn't do anything. It will inspect the build output, and it will then go fix the errors that it kind of like finds. Build failed. It will pick that up. It will read whatever's there, and it will start doing things, right? So super, super, super cool. Cool. Pedro, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about? I'm running out of time a little bit. I will let my next meeting know that I'll be a little bit later. um, Perfect. Oh, I see my meeting's not here yet. So that's fine. Yeah, any more questions in the chat? Anything that have you been installing Visual Studio 2026 while we were talking here? Let me quickly resolve this as well. Yeah, please keep going until it's resolved, right? Let's just do that. Let's just say that. In the meantime, let's see, like, hey, let's just go to visualstudio.com. I imagine there's something there, right? Visual Studio, you and AI better together. Visual Studio 2026 Insiders is here. See, just go to the website, try it now, click on whatever version you need, and you can start downloading it, right? If you want to know a little bit more, there is podcasts and streams like this all over the place, because there has been a little bit of a push for people wanting to know more. So that's what we've been doing. You can also go to devblogs.microsoft.com, or is it maybe it's on Visual Studio because this is more the developer. Oh, it's on here as well. And you can see this post for Visual Studio. There is a insiders release party here that was streamed probably, and you can find all the things here too, right? Like AI integrated development, we talked about that. Blazing fast performance, it's not exaggerated. It is. It feels much faster than 2022, absolutely. Modern look and feel, right? We talked about that as well, and try it out today, so you can find all the stuff and all the links kind of like here too. I see .NET Aspire for Maui hybrid with web Visual Studio 2026. No option to set it up. Yes, there is a bug indeed with one of the templates, and that's probably exactly the one that you're looking at. We have an open issue for that right now. We're fixing it, so that should be coming in. Don't worry about it. We're going to fix it. Thank you for catching that. Is this still going? It appears there was an issue. Is it doing anything now? It's still broken. It's Friday. It's time for weekend. We shouldn't make Copilot do this work. Um, cool. And Visual Studio 2026, what main Maui features and new can you? We talked about that a little bit, so probably go back to the beginning of the stream and watch that a little bit. If you want to know exactly about all the .NET MAUI stuff, this was focusing more on Visual Studio 2026, although I did talk a significant amount of time also about .NET MAUI. Just search for with your favorite search engine for .NET MAUI release notes, and you can kind of like find per version what is going on here. The .NET Aspire integration that we've just mentioned, right, tells you how to set that up. All kinds of, yeah, this is not working. He totally messed that up. Animations, controls, diagnostics, which is super helpful with the Aspire stuff. We are actually removing Messaging Center this time. We've done it before. This time the API is actually gone. We're not bringing it back. Some other interesting stuff. Media Picker, that's a lot that I worked on too, so go check that out. We finally did some improvements for Media Picker. Secondary toolbar items, it's such a small feature, but it makes me so happy. On iOS, you would have like the toolbar items that are directly on the navigation bar. Now they're in kind of like a secondary menu, or you can add it there if that's what you want. And that's much more aligned with how other operating systems do it. I don't think we have a screenshot here, but it makes me like super happy, and other people as well. So that's great. That's when I'm happy if you're happy. So you can add the icon for that and do all these things. Example source. It's right here, Pedro. Oh no, this is actually not updated. Source generator. Okay. Enable preview. I don't think this is needed anymore. I think, and I think that's why I got messed up because I think this is outdated information. So if you can figure it out, if Copilot can figure it out, let me know, and I'll make sure to get these instructions updated as well. Cool. Can you talk? Oh my goodness, yes, I should have talked about that. Can you talk about Maui running core CLR runtime? Yes, absolutely. So core CLR, there we go. It's in the release notes. For Android, this is specific for Android, you can use the core CLR instead of mono, which is, as you can see, experimental. Again, one of those things together with XAML source generation. Please try this out, enable this on your project, and let us know how it's going. Because this is a big change, right? It changes that you're not running on the mono runtime, but on the core CLR. So basically, like the rest of .NET, for your Android application. So don't take this to production, absolutely not. But enable this because it will give you performance improvements. It will give you stability improvements. It will give you a lot of cool stuff. So try it out. Let us know how it goes. Because we need the feedback to make this the default at some point. And before that, we want to catch as many bugs as we can, right? So definitely go check that out as well. And then you can do that. .NET Run support, also very good. There's too much cool stuff. We need to do another stream, Pedro, with less technical issues, and then we can talk about all the rest. Yes, maybe that first. We have to ask Copilot how to make OBS work. Yes. All right, thank you so much, Pedro, for having me on the stream. Although the technical difficulties, despite the technical difficulties, I hope it was still somewhat useful and fun and entertaining. I had a lot of fun talking to the people in the chat. I'm sorry, Pedro, that you didn't really get to talk that much. If people can hear you, um, it happens. It happens. Exactly. I still hope you had a good time too, Pedro, and we'll definitely be in touch. And maybe I see you've been live streaming on your channel a little bit as well, so definitely go check that out. Um, And maybe we could do another live stream in the future and talk about some things more here. Absolutely. All right. Uh, Absolutely. Have a great weekend and talk to you later. Bye.